So hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Question Block. And last week I asked, what is your favorite special move in Super Mario RPG? So there's quite a lot of special moves in this game between the 5 party members, and there's quite a lot of fun, memorable, and very useful ones. So in this video I will be discussing the responses to that last question, and kind of discussing my own thoughts on them and kind of agree with some of them, since some of the ones that are mentioned are definitely up there as some of my favorites. So let's go ahead and get started. So Clifford Longhead said, Thought Peek, to see your enemy's HP, weakness, and see what they say. Yeah, Thought Peek is definitely a very useful one, especially for 100% purposes. Like, I've been using that on, like, nearly every enemy in the game, just to fill out the monster list bestiary thing. And it also is useful to see, like, their weaknesses as well, which can be handy, like, when you're using, like, the other special moves as well, for different, like, elemental effects and things. So, yeah, I definitely think Thought Peek is pretty useful, and I'm glad in the remake they made it more similar to Tattle from Paper Mario, just due to the fact that it fills out those entries, and it's just pretty useful in general, and you'll be using it on basically, like, every enemy if you want to 100% the game, or not spend a ton of frog coins, since there is that one NPC at Booster Pass you can use to fill out the entries, but I recommend just using Thought Peek for most of them, so you can save your frog coins. But yeah, Thought Peek is definitely a really cool special move. So Fiction of Grandeur said, Gino Flash, the sun shooting out of the cannon is so cool. Yeah, I really like this move as well. Like, I think it's kind of funny how Gino turns into a cannon and then shoots out, like, the sunlight thing, which is definitely very fitting for Gino, since he's a star. And honestly, like, the design of, like, Gino as, like, the sun there, it almost kind of reminds me of, like, Watt a little bit from Paper Mario, like, with some of the moves that she can do in that game. At least, like, the ones where you kind of, like, kind of build up a certain move and everything. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. But I think it's a really cool move, like, especially, like, with the cannon and everything. I've seen a lot of fan art of Gino as the cannon, so I think it is pretty cool. But yeah. So, Jaden the Red Fox said, do I even need to say it? GinoWhirl. Yeah, GinoWhirl is undoubtedly the most iconic move that Gino has in the game. And I think it is really fun to use, and it's definitely really cool when you actually pull it off on Exor, since basically when you use it on Exor, when you've gotten, like, I think it's like either the right or left eye down, it will do 9,999 damage, and that is actually intentional. Like, the devs actually intended you to do that. It's not a bug or anything. It's actually a strategy you can do in the game. So it feels really satisfying when you pull it off, and it's just, like, really funny in general. So I think it's really cool that you can, like, actually do that. And GinoWhirl is just a pretty cool move in general, like, because it basically is the ultimate test of the timed attacks and action commands, since you have to hit it exactly at the right time for it to work. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely a culmination of, like, everything you've been learning throughout the game in terms of, like, timed attacks. So that's why GinoWhirl is pretty iconic. So Fawful the Great 64 said, it's hard to pick a definitive favorite, but one I find underrated is Maules' Snowy attack, which creates a giant snowman and is super effective against fire enemies. I was using it so much to plow through the repeated battle sequences in the 6 door sections of Bowser's Keep. It wiped out most of the loadouts, with only a few surviving or resisting it. Yeah, the Snowy attack is definitely really useful, and I kind of like the design of it as well, since it's just like a giant snowman that just plops down, and it is very useful on, like either if there's, like, a ton of enemies, in a battle, or if there's like fire enemies as well, since it's like very effective against them. But yeah, the snowy attack is great, and I think it's really cool that they referenced it in Paper Mario 64 with the snowman doll, since it does basically the same thing in that game, though a little differently, just due to the battle mechanics working a little differently in Paper Mario 64, because, I mean, functionally it is pretty similar and everything. It's just an item in Paper Mario rather than an actual, like, FP attack. So, yeah, I think the, snowy attack is definitely, one of my personal favorites, especially since they referenced it in Paper Mario 64. But yeah, so Orange Tadpole said, never really thought about it, but I guess I like Maules Shocker, because the 3D lightning bolt looks so cool. Yeah, I also think it looks pretty cool as well, and it's definitely very useful, like, with enemies that have the resistance to, or I guess, like, have a weakness, not necessarily resistance, but, like, weakness against, like, lightning and everything. Especially in, like, the sunken ship area, there are quite a lot of enemies that have a weakness to lightning, so it's useful to use it there, as well as on bosses that have the weakness to lightning as well. Or on bosses in general, I think it's pretty useful. But yeah, I think the effect looks pretty cool. It's definitely kind of fun to try to get the action command down for that, since you basically kind of have to memorize when the lightning bolt strikes, because you have to press it like within a few frames of when the lightning bolt hits. So yeah, it's definitely one that has a little bit of a learning curve to it, but I really enjoy it. So Agent Alaska 9000 said, dude, I love Gino Blast. Well, the last two Gino specials really. Him and Mallow are great attacking enemies with magic. Oh yeah, that's definitely, like, with Mallow, I feel like Mallow, a lot of people don't feel like Mallow is the best party member in a lot of areas, but I feel like Mallow is great when it comes to special moves and magic and everything. And Gino, I mean, Gino is, like, kind of built for that and everything. And Gino is definitely, like, my favorite party member to use in the game, but, Gino Blast, specifically, is great, and it's, like, great in most scenarios, like, where there's multiple enemies on the screen, or there's bosses with, like, different helpers on the side. Gino Blast is great, and I find myself using it quite a lot, and it's one of the Gino moves. I didn't mention this before, but it also has, like, the one where you charge up, which I like, since it's kind of more akin to the older Paper Mario games with how it works. So I think it's pretty cool with that, but yeah, Gino Blast is definitely very useful. So Roddy the Star said, Star Rain is my favorite. For the enemy side attacks, I'd say Water Blast. Yes, Star Rain is like the final move that you get for Mallow, but I think it's definitely a pretty good one to use. Like, again, kind of like Gino Blast, it's definitely very useful when you have, like, multiple enemies on the screen. But Star Rain is also really cool, since it's basically the opposite of one of the enemy moves, since late in the game, there's an enemy move called Dark Star, which effectively does the same thing, but has, like, an evil Dark Star on there, which I think is kind of funny, looking back, since there's also the Dark Star in Bowser's Inside Story, and it immediately reminded me of that when I saw the Dark Star move. But Star Rain is basically the opposite of that, so I think it is cool that there is, like, a version of that you can actually use with your party members. But I think it's pretty cool, since you can actually use it, like, multiple times in a row, almost like the Super Jump or the Ultra Jump. So yeah, I really like that move. So, speaking of Super Jump, GameLover64 said Super Jump. And yeah, Super Jump is another great move and another really useful move, especially on the bosses, like where there's like a single boss and you don't have to worry that much about the enemies on the side. Super Jump definitely comes in handy, and I've used it quite a lot since you get it fairly early in the game, so I found myself using it a lot. The Ultra Jump is pretty good too if there's like multiple enemies on the screen, but Super Jump also has that one side quest with the 100 super jumps, where you have to do it 100 times, which is like really difficult. Even in the remake, it's really difficult. I haven't even done it, and I've done most of the things in the remake now. Like, I've done all of the post-match bosses. I'm still working on 100%ing the game, though. But, yeah, the 100 super jumps is brutal, since, like, you have to do 100 nearly... Well, I guess at least, like, after 13 to 15 jumps, you have to do, like, a ton of nearly frame-perfect jumps. So it's really difficult, and that's how you get the super suit. So yeah, I'm surprised they didn't make it any easier in the remake. But yeah, the super jump is a pretty good move. It just has a really annoying side quest linked to it. But yeah, those are some of your favorite special moves in Super Mario RPG. If I'd had to say my personal favorites, I would say either Snowy or Gino Flash. I would say those are probably my personal favorites. But yeah, anyways, the next question is, what is one section of a game deemed difficult by most fans or players that you didn't find to be that hard? So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye!